Garcia, the legendary status that they are, they brought it home. And it all started with Bruce Bochy, to be honest with you. As soon as they signed him, it was go time. As soon as they signed him, it was World Series, here we come. And it just feels, you're speechless as a fan. And it brought tears to my eyes.
It did. You know, just kind of what Matt was talking about, it's just amazing to see from times we've come. You know, just a few years ago, I was banking my hopes on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, you know, Carlos Tocci, Jurickson Profar.
Oh my
you
gosh,
know,
Jurickson Profar.
These guys that I would watch night in and night out, and, you know, they just never panned out. And so, you know, we went into the time opening the new ballpark pandemic season where they really reset, and they said, you know what? We need to get these prospects come in, Josh Young, you know, different guys, and we need to spend. And that's what they did. You know, you said Corey Seager. You told me back in 2017, 2018 that we would ever have a player like Corey Seager on the Rangers. I would have thought you were joking. And so I have like guys like that to get Bochy out of retirement. That was really a sign. You talk about that. Bochy was not coming out of retirement to manage a middling team that wasn't going to do anything. And so to go in a season like last season, that was just so historic. I'm never going to forget it. I'm having lifelong memories created last year. You know, Adolis Garcia could be one of my favorite players of all time because of what he's done the past couple of years.
Definitely. Like you said, opening the new field, but also opening up the checkbooks. I mean, last season, huge free agency moves. The season before that, I think, bigger. But this season, we also made a lot of moves at the trade deadline. So, Gabe, what was the biggest trade deadline / free agency acquisition that made the World Series run happen?
You know, Montgomery was a very big addition, but I'm going to have to go with the trade that started it all. Aroldis Chapman. Now,
with your guns
when
here.
I say that name, he causes nervousness and sweats. And every time I saw him come in the playoffs, I started pacing around my room, you know.
How could you not?
Talking to my friends, thinking we might blow this game. But ultimately, he got the job done. And he was the sign that started it all. He was the sign that Chris Young said, we're not playing around this year. We see that this division is open. The Astros were struggling. The AL, there weren't particularly any, besides the Orioles, any that amazing teams. And he said, this is open and we can make a run this year. And so that really started it during a time in the middle of the season, July and August, when our bullpen was struggling a lot. He was a little bit a part of that, but he also kind of kept it going just enough to where we were able to get in the postseason and make that run.
No doubt. Matt?
Yeah, all you needed was 2 outs with Aroldis. That's all you needed, and that's what he got us. So, granted, great. I'm going to have to go with Jordan Montgomery, though. Big old 600-pound man that he is. You know, he came in and he shoved whenever the rotation was not as good as it could be. He came in there whenever Nathan Eovaldi was struggling because he was getting hurt, and Dane Dunning was really the primary guy. And Dane Dunning did a great job, but Jordan Montgomery did a better job. Let's be clear. Jordan Montgomery did a job where you pay him free agency type money. He came in and he shoved in the playoffs too, people. Came in there, curveball to Jordan. Sit down, son. And that's what he did. And that's why Jordan Montgomery was the better acquisition in the whole entire season for the Rangers.
Yeah, well, speaking of Chapman and Montgomery, Chapman is now with the Pittsburgh Pirates, but Montgomery is still out there. So we're looking at the bullpen here, and I mean, not a lot of options to go around, to be completely honest. I mean, you obviously have Josh Sborz, and you have Dane Dunning. Leclerc is still a nice closer. Signing David Robinson from the Marlins was nice. But, guys, do we really trust this bullpen going down the stretch? Are we going to go back-to-back with this bullpen? It is a really important piece of the Rangers that kept them back for a lot of years. So, Gabe, is this something that's going to hold the Rangers back this year? Or is it not going to be an issue because starting pitching healthy is so good?
I ultimately actually don't think this will be as big of a problem as a lot of fans may think. I think that David Robertson, and Kirby Yates acquisitions were very great. I think coming off a year where Jose Leclerc is finally coming into that player that when he's healthy, he's a very dominant. You know, Josh Sborz went in that postseason and showed the reasons why we kept him around when he was struggling because of that fastball that he has, because of the advanced analytics RPMs that he has on his curveball and off-speed pitches. You know, he's dominant. So with guys coming in like Jonathan Hernandez, Brock Burke, years which they struggled, I think that also gave them time to develop. And so I really do think that this bullpen could actually turn into a strength in this first half of the season when the rotation is trying to get healthy.
Matt?
So I'm going to talk about the rotation. I agree with you, Gabe. I think the bullpen is not as bad as some people say it ought to be. The rotation is where I'm starting to get a little hesitant on. I mean, at the top, you got Eovaldi, Dunning, Gray, and that's great, right? Then you have Heaney, he's like a 4 ERA guy. Then you maybe have Bradford. You're hoping Bradford comes in and he's a good starter. Other than that, you may go to Owen White. You may go to, hopefully, Jack Leiter. If Jack Leiter could come in and be a good pitcher in the bullpen, maybe he gets a couple starts like Cody Bradford did. And that could be huge whenever your rotation is trying to get healthy in the middle of the season. Now, I think that the bullpen is actually probably better than they were last season because they had a bunch of guys who were wild. And wild does not win you games. Wild gets you walks, and wild loses you games. Now they have guys with good command, good fastballs, good off speeds. And that's what you need. And that's what you need to go back to back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are the concerns for the Rangers then, Matt? If it's not the bullpen, then what do you? Is it that starting rotation?
No, actually, it's the DH position, and that's because Mitch Garver went to the Mariners. And so your biggest hope is that you have a young guy in Wyatt Langford who's absolutely phenomenal. Is a beast, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is a freak of nature, this guy. And I think he can start at DH and put up better numbers in his rookie season than Mitch Garver gave you. And that's a big if, though, because he's young and he's a prospect. But this kid is amazing. So you could put those kind of heights on somebody like this, and hopefully you expect him to hit it. Other than that, I think it would be rotation, but DH is where I'm looking at.
You know, I am looking at the rotation. I think until DeGrom, Scherzer, and new free agent acquisition Tyler Mahle come back somewhere midsummer, July or August, I think it's going to be a major issue. You know, I think Dane Dunning started to come into his own. I think he's a dependable 4th or 5th starter.
Yeah.
You know, I think Andrew Heaney had his moments in the postseason. I don't know how consistent he is. I think he's, as a veteran, I think he's already shown who he is a little bit more, and you can't really trust any more development that he's going to have. You know, Martin Perez really fell off and he's not back. You know, so, you know, I think John Gray will be a key starter for us.
I think John Gray is going to be good.
But I really do think that the rotation will struggle to start out the year.
Well, guys, enough talk about the Rangers. Let's talk about the entire league as a whole. Spring training is upcoming, and the All-Star Games in Arlington. How exciting is that, guy? Y'all going to go?
Super exciting. I want to get tickets.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably ridiculously expensive,
Yeah.
but a man can dream, right?
A man can dream.
What do you guys look at as the best teams in the NL and the best team in the AL, and why? Matt, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Okay, I'll start in the AL. I think aside from the Rangers, it's hard-pressed not to think that the Orioles are the other best team in the AL. They added Corbin Burns to an already stacked rotation. They have all the young characteristics of a great up-and-coming team. So I'm going to switch to the NL now. And I think it's really hard to not think that the Dodgers and the Braves are the best teams. But, you know, I got to say the difference in all those teams is one guy, and that's the manager, right? They don't have Bruce Bochy. And it is important that you have the best chess piece on your team be the manager.
I agree with the AL, with your perspective on the AL. I do think it's the Orioles. I think the new owners, we were talking about this before, I think that the ownership is really the key to them with this young core.
Absolutely
that they
agree.
will probably now actually re-sign these guys to extensions, keep that core locked up, keep guys like Jackson Holliday in Baltimore for the foreseeable future. And then I do think for the NL, I would have to say the Braves. Now the Dodgers with Ohtani, that is going to be tough to beat, especially during the regular season. But I think with the Braves, when you have one of the best starting lineups in baseball, and you add a guy like Jared Kelenic, who going into Seattle, coming up with Seattle, everybody thought was going to be a potential superstar. Situation was not great for him there. Various reasons. The GM situation is not amazing. I think he's a guy just waiting to break out. They traded for Chris Sale, a guy who some might say is past his prime, but I think could be the key to an already amazing starting rotation.
Well, that's all for the Texas Rangers block. And when we come back, we'll be talking about UNT men's basketball and their unfortunate loss yesterday, so don't go anywhere.
This guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me.
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good. I like the way you move and groove. I'm not sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SportsZone. I'm here joined by Julian Lofgren and Steven Lucero. How are we doing today, fellas?
We're good.
Well, guys, tough outing yesterday against UAB. Tough loss. Let's go back to Thursday night for now then, and we'll just skip the bad news. UNT beats Memphis and Penny Hardaway, 76-66. Huge win. They started out blazing, 6-6 from three. So, do y'all think the hot start influenced the win? Do you think so, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jason Edwards especially, he was just on fire.
Absolutely.
The three-point shooting was incredible, and that was a huge part of the win.
Yeah, definitely. Julian?
I feel that it really helped them because it made Memphis kind of have to shift their defensive game plan. They really had to come out of what they wanted to do. They wanted to sit in zone, and now they had to do more of a man-to-man type defense. So it really kind of shifted their defensive game plan, and I think it really ended up helping UNT in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, a diamond in the rough in Jason Edwards. He's been amazing in the last three losses, actually. 29 points against UAB, 18 against SMU, and 31 against USF. He has been awesome. So John Buggs also has been awesome. He had a great game as well. He drilled 4 out of his 5 threes. Julian, who do you think made the biggest impact against Memphis?
I kind of think back to what Steven said. I think it's got to be Jason Edwards. He's been the guy. He's been the guy all year. I mean, when the team needs a shot, it seems like he's the guy we go to. I mean, if we're looking for a game-winning three, he's the guy we look to. And, I mean, he's a transfer, and then he's kind of come here and really made an impact for this team. So, I mean, looking at the Memphis game, I'm pretty sure he had 30 points in that game. So, I mean, he was just a leading scorer and just really led the charge against Memphis that game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jason Edwards is the easy answer, but I do want to mention, like you said, with John Buggs, he's your sharpshooter, and when he's hot, this team is hot, so that really made a big difference as well.
Absolutely, and for Memphis, is their at-large bid lost with this loss? I mean, they fall to 18-8, 7-6 in conference. They could win the conference if things go their way, but I have to think their at-large bid is gone, right, Steven?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely gone. Yeah. I mean, they started off really good. I think we're ranked as high as 10th.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fall-off has been real, and UNT got a good win out of it, so hey, we'll take it.
Julian?
Yeah, I kind of feel that they kind of started the year in the upper echelon part of the conference. They were one of those top 3 teams, and now they've kind of fallen to middle of the pack, kind of around right where UNT is. They're just right above UNT as of right now. I want to say they're sitting about 5th in conference, and they started the year. Preseason they were picked to win the conference, and now they've just kind of fallen off. So I think really if you're looking, their at-large bid is very in big-time jeopardy.
I agree, and like I said, I think they can make a conference run if they really, put things together towards the end of the season, but it's been tough for Penny Hardaway's team. I mean, throwing a water bottle and all that fun stuff, right? Obviously very frustrated. He was very frustrated in the press conference after the game, and so for them, I think that their at-large bid is gone. And obviously, our at-large bid is gone as well. I mean, it's been a tough season for the men's, but what is the biggest takeaway from this win before we go ahead and jump into the UAB game, Julian?
I think for me, it's got to be our ability to score. We started the game off and we were able to hit threes, and that's kind of something that I feel in a lot of games we haven't been able to do. But like when we kind of talk about guys like John Buggs, Jason Edwards, when those guys are hot, the entire team does well. And when they started hot, it kind of just allowed the entire team to just kind of rally around those guys and just allowed everyone else to play better.
Definitely.
Absolutely. I'll just add on to that. This team, I think, absolutely lives and dies by the three-point shot.
Absolutely.
When they're hot, we get the Memphis game and we get big-time wins. When they're not, we get the UAB game.
Yeah, and like you said, the UAB game, a tough loss, 62-71. Obviously not shooting very well for the Mean Green. Jason Edwards still had a great game, and that's great as well. And he's been, like I said, a diamond in the rough. But when you can't put together those wins against teams like UAB that you beat in the NIT last year, right? It's tough to see. And so the Mean Green sit at 14-11 in conference, 14-11 overall, 7-6 in conference, 7th place. Right behind Memphis. So do y'all think that the Blazers can make a splash in the AAC tournament? Not the Mean Green, we'll get into that in a little bit, but the Blazers themselves, who have been pretty good lately.
Yeah, I think they certainly have a shot. I mean, once it's tournament time, it all kind of goes out the window. You know, I think this definitely matters, but anything can happen once we get to that point. So UAB, especially contrary to Memphis, they're going up. You know, their stock is really improving, and they can keep it up. They definitely have a good shot.
They're blazing, as you might say. And Julian, what do you think?
I agree. I just want to go back to kind of what he was saying. I kind of feel they started the year off rough, and now they've just kind of started to really get it together. They have a lot of good bigs who are really playing well for them, and they get them a lot of points. And really, I think the thing that UAB is really good at is they get a lot of offensive boards, which allows for second opportunities for their team to score. And that's kind of one of the reasons I feel that we lost the game on Saturday.
No doubt. They don't really have a top scorer like we have in Jason Edwards. They kind of have a couple of guys that can get it done. And that's probably what's going to prove best for them down the stretch in the AAC conference tournament. But for us, can we make a splash in the conference tournament? I mean, we're kind of struggling. We're back and forth. We're hot and cold, barely treading water, as some say. Steven, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a streaky team, I think you might say. It's when we're hot, I believe we can beat anyone in the conference. When we're not, you know, it looks rough. So it's going to depend on the coaching, I think, is a big part of it, and just what this team can do down the stretch if someone else other than Jason Edwards can step up.
No doubt. Julian?
Kind of like what he said. I kind of want to go to I made this kind of comparison a little bit earlier when I was talking. I feel that the Mavs and UNT kind of play the exact same way. I feel Jason Edwards kind of plays that role of Luka, where he's going to consistently go out and get you 29, 30 points every night, kind of the same way Luka does, but can there be another guy who can step up and get you another 20, 15 points to kind of be that guy with Jason Edwards, I kind of feel. So I feel if we can get that guy, then it's really going to help UNT in their chance in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Hope to heartbreak is what I talk about with UNT, and Jason Edwards has led the charge. But for the team as a whole, do we think that we're really going to make a surprise AAC run, a tournament run? Last year we kind of fizzled out, but we still won the NIT. So this year, are we going to make a run at the conference tournament, Julian? What do you think?
Sadly, I don't think we are. I just don't think this year we have the pieces to make a big run and a big splash in the AAC. And if you kind of just look at the other teams, you're talking USF, FAU. I just feel those guys just, when it comes, they have just better pieces than we do. And I feel maybe in 2 or 3 years we will have those pieces, but I just feel right now in the current state, I just don't think we have the pieces to compete with those upper echelon teams in the AAC.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I think, you know, I'm not going to rule us out because in March, anything can happen. I do believe that. But the thing is, Jason Edwards is absolutely carrying this team. And until we can either get someone else to step up or, you know, like you said, maybe bring in help later on, it's going to be tough to really get a consistent effort out of the entire team.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys already touched on it. Do we think that Jason Edwards is the MVP of this team? I mean, he's proved himself to be the leader, but is he the MVP? And are they going to miss him if he misses games?
Absolutely. I mean, in every sense of the word. I mean, it's just what he does is absolutely incredible. And I think, you know, I'll speak to the UAB game, for example. He scored 12 more points than the other 4 starters combined. I mean, just think about that for a minute. His impact is he's the heart, the soul, everything for this team. If he were to go down, I don't even want to look at what this team could be.
Absolutely. Julian?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Kind of the offense rolls through him, and when you have a guy of that caliber, and when you take him out, he's kind of like the Patrick Mahomes of this basketball team. When he is not there, the entire team struggles because the offense runs through him, and he gets guys looks and makes the entire team better. So when you take a guy of that out of the system, it just hurts the entire team overall. And I just think we wouldn't be half as good if we didn't have Jason Edwards.
Yeah. What's the biggest takeaway from this loss to wrap it up, guys? Julian?
For me, I think it's got to be the consistency with the three-point shooting. As we talked about before, we showed up Memphis. We were knocking down threes. Came to UAB and shot 22%. 22% is not a way to win a game. I mean, it's not a recipe for success. So if we can just get more consistent in our shooting, I feel we'll have a better chance against some of these teams that we're maybe going to upset.
Yeah, absolutely. I think UAB, as good as, you know, they got the win, but they didn't play their best game. I think in this case, it was more of a you didn't really lose the game, but you got beat, and you beat yourself more than anything. We just got to get these shots to fall, and then, I think we'll have a lot more success.
Absolutely. A couple games left for the Mean Green, and when we come back, we will be sprinting over to the track to talk about UNT track and field. Stay with us.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
Não sou fácil.
This story is going to be awesome.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Drew Maurer, joined here by Kinsey Neely and Lidiana Reyes, and we're going to talk about a little bit of UNT track and field, mixing it up, something we haven't talked about before. So guys, the Mean Green just wrapped up their series of regular season indoor track events, and they're going to go to the conference championship here soon. But let's talk about how the Mean Green fared in those events, Kinsey.
They've been okay. That's the only thing I can really say. I mean, I'm used to watching a lot of track meets, and they've been okay. That's the biggest thing. I really don't know what else I can say. The coaches, they've been doing good, but besides that, field events has been the biggest thing. Sprinting, running events, besides the long distance events, it hasn't really been that amazing. Field events have been doing pretty good, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think this season is going okay, like you said. I mean, they've only had 5 track meets so far, and at each meet, there's been at least 1 to 3 people winning their event. So not a lot of people winning, but they've still been doing pretty good. So yeah.
Yeah, and a quote from Coach Doug Marshall, he said, "I thought we stayed very consistent in our performances, like you guys said." And he also said, "I think that we did well and excelled in certain areas, and we have some work to do in others," like you guys said, in the field events. So let's go ahead and recap. Friday night, true freshman Jake Durrell led the Mean Green at the Jarvis Scott Open, and he cleared a personal best height on the pole vault of 5.1 meters. So that's awesome, and he was a runner-up to the finish. So great showing there. And then on the second day of competition in Lubbock, Brenna Zerby and Tiblitz Abriha. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing those names, but they also were pretty good in the women's mile, clocking a 5-minute mile for both of them, 5:27.91 for Zerby, and then for the other 5:31. So a lot of good this weekend, and heading to Birmingham, Alabama this weekend for the American Athletic Conference Championship. What can we expect, Lidiana, from our Mean Green?
Yeah, honestly, this is the time to really show out. So I think they're gonna go out there and keep getting improving each time, because they were improving at each meet they were at. So I think they're gonna do really good at the championship.
I mean, I agree. They have been improving. They haven't been getting any worse, but they haven't been getting any better. That's the only bad part. I do think our field events, once again, I can't stress this enough, our field events are amazing. And our men's long distance is stupendous. Our men's mile, our men's 400 meter is really good. And like whenever we are able to like compete with our actual conference. We'll be able to stand a little bit there, stand our ground there, but I want to be able to talk about our women's shot putter. She's been doing amazing. Let me get her name really fast. But she's been doing great. I'll make sure I talk about her later. But she's been doing really good. I can't stress that enough. She's one of my favorite players, she's one of my favorite athletes this year whenever it comes to track and field, because the field part is the most important part. It's one of the most important parts. You get the points from there, and that's how you are able to continue going on, and you win those championships, and you win those medals, and that's good.
Yeah, like Coach Marshall said, consistency is key. And we've got a lot of events coming up as we transfer to the outdoor events. We got the Bill Schmidt invite and the Mean Green Invitational here in March and April at UNT. And then we've also got the Victor Lopez Classic, March 22nd and 23rd at Rice. And then we've also got March 27th through the 30th. Those are the Clyde Littlefield Relays. So a lot of things to look forward to in the outdoor events coming up. But guys, I'm going to ask you guys, what are y'all's favorite track performers? Kinsey, we'll start with you.
My favorite track performer is like all time or UNT?
Let's do both. Let's do all time and let's do UNT. So start with your UNT and then we'll do all.
My UNT, okay, so I'm gonna go with, like I had said before, the shot putter that I've been talking about. Her name is
Kayla Dove.
Yeah, Kate. Thank you. Kayla Dove. She's been doing great in shot put. She's broken many UNT records this year alone, and not only that, but conference records as well. She's number 1 in the conference for this conference alone, and she's been doing a stupendous. She's been doing great. I love it. And so, like, seeing her continuously making sure that she's getting a further and further distance every single time, we love to see it.
Absolutely. Lydiana, what about you?
Yeah, so I really love Kayla Dove as well, but I also like, you mentioned him before, Jake Durrell. He's been really good at pole vaulting, and honestly, his first meet, he went out there, he got top 10, but then later on, he got more comfortable. I mean, he's just a freshman. He got 3rd place, and then he got 2nd place, and got a personal best at 5.01, like you mentioned. But yeah, I just really love how every time he does a really good job, he shows his personality, and I just love when athletes like show themselves. So yeah, he's been doing good.
I've got 2 shout outs. One is my buddy Damian Wells. He runs the 100 and the 200. Shout out to him. And then also one of our own, Jalen Tucker. She does the long jump. So she is awesome, and she will be on Mean Green Mania coming up soon. But just wanted to give a shout out to her, and those are my favorite track performers here at UNT. But what is our best event, guys? So our favorite, obviously, our performers, but what is our best event you guys feel like? Kinsey, what is the best event that we participate in? Either track or field, really.
That's a really difficult thing to say. UNT, we're decent at track, but we aren't the best. We could be the best, but this is a new conference, so it's a little bit difficult. I would say right now our long distance is definitely our best. Our new coach, he mainly focuses on long distance, so that's his biggest thing, and he makes sure that like all our long distance runners, they're able to run that long distance, and they do place medals. They do well. It's amazing to watch them do that. But our sprinters and our field events, they aren't doing the best, except for the one girl I had mentioned earlier. But besides that, like, I would definitely put it on our long distance events. Both men's and women's have been doing a lot of numbers, both in cross country and in track and field.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to determine what the men are kind of good at. But on the women's side, there's 5 freshman girls who I think they do really good in the 60-meter hurdle. And I'm going to name them for you, okay? We have India Walton, Nakia Marshall, Bazia Mitchell, Rhea DeGraffrey, and Akria Jones. Sorry I messed up your name, but I mean, they've been really good. They placed pretty high up there, so I think this is the best event for the women's.
Absolutely, and you know, the Mean Green have been so awesome for us this season, but who in the conference do you guys feel like challenges us the most?
Ooh, Lordy.
Lydiana, I'll start with you. Who do you feel like challenges us the most in the conference as the championships approach this weekend?
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good teams. I mean, there's Charlotte and South Florida. Those are really good teams, but I wouldn't say there's one team that really, I don't know. I just feel like they definitely should go out there with the mindset of beating everyone and also focusing on themselves. So I don't think there's really just one team.
I agree. Like, it's difficult with track and field. You have to be able to make sure that you're racing against all your components. I mean, all the opponents around you. So it's kind of hard to pick one team, but I would say for the men, it's going to be South Florida for sure, because their sprinters are insane. And that's whenever you're going to rack up the most points, which really count whenever you want that championship. And then for the women, it's definitely going to be Charlotte, because their long distance and their sprints and their field events are all #1 in the conference right now. So I would give it to them, whereas UNT's, all of those, they're not even making top 5. And so I really hope to see UNT like make a little bit during this week of a break. So I'm looking forward to it.
And guys, as outdoor season approaches, are we thinking that these events are going to be what we excel in there too? I know it's a little bit different. Obviously, you have the curvature and the indoor track, and then outside you don't. So it's like certain teams excel more than others. So what do you think, Kenzie? Do you think we're going to have a better time in the outdoor or in the indoor?
I definitely do. Like we do have a really good. We have great sprinters. We have an amazing like sprint team, long distance. Like regardless, long distance definitely is going to continue to excel as they have been. But I think this is going to be an interesting time to make sure that the sprinters are able to do their best, because like you're going from doing a 60-meter sprint to doing a 100-meter sprint, which is a little bit easier because you were able to excel a little bit faster. Whenever you do the 60-meter sprint, you have a very limited amount of time to like accelerate as fast as you can. I've been there, I've done that. It's difficult to be able to get to your top speed by the very end of that 60 meters. But that 100-meter is going to be beautiful. I'm excited to see all our UNT people do it.
Yeah, I think it's going to transfer over. I think they're still going to do really good. I mean, I think there's probably going to be more people in the outdoor just kind of breaking out. So I think we might see more or better people there. But I don't know, you've done it. So is there like a different mindset switching over?
Whenever you do indoor season, it's always a little bit of a like more limited group. Not everyone wants to do indoor season, or they want to be able to save themselves, especially like top tier athletes want to be able to save themselves for the outdoor season, because that's what really matters whenever like, you know, Olympics comes around, you want to be considered for that, or if you want to transfer to a different school, you want to be considered for that. Like those outdoor times, they really count.
Okay, very quickly guys, favorite event, Kenzie?
100-meter, 200-meter, and the 4x1.
All right, Lydiana?
Mine is the 4x400 men's relay. Love the atmosphere for that. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Awesome. When we come back, we'll be skating over to Boston to talk about the Dallas Stars road trip, so stay right with us.
Why should you join Talons?
We are very welcoming to people who may be a little bit hesitant. There's people currently right now in our organization who are in leadership positions who were hesitant before to join, and they found out that they just loved the organization and wanted to be a bigger part of it. They post about the football games, everything they're doing, all their events that they host.
What's the best?
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back to SportsZone, everyone. I'm joined by Adam C. and Mason Branham here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Dallas Stars. And I got to be honest, I'm still frustrated about the loss earlier. 9-10 shootouts. Absolutely absurd. The save that Jeremy Swayman had was just off the chart. I mean, like, unreal. With his foot, like the back of it, like his heel. It's ridiculous. So, guys, let's go ahead and start with the Bruins game. That was a killer. Is that going to hurt the Stars?
So it's a heartbreaker? No, it's not going to hurt the Stars. And here's why. Here's my reasoning, all right? These 3 games that we're going to recap, these 3 particular games, we got 4 points. 2 overtime losses. That's not ideal. I'd rather have 5 points. I'd rather would have gotten the win today. But it's better for us to come off this 3-game stretch with 4 points as opposed to 2 having outright losses in 2 games. It's not going to hurt us, although I would have liked it with the schedule we're going to have soon.
Yeah. Mason?
Well, I think one thing that kind of played in going into this game was you had 2 key players out. You had Duchesne, who was hurt, and Haskin had a kid, so you had to call up 2 AHL guys that haven't had a lot of experience. So being able to go into those games and have those guys step up. I mean, yes, obviously you want the guys that have the most experience to play in these kind of games, but to be able to go into a shootout against a top team and only lose in that last shootout. I mean, that's something that you're going to look at and say, hey, we didn't get the result that we wanted, but we still played a very well game.
Yeah, and let's talk more about Duchesne, guys. He has been awesome. I mean, even though the Stars lost today, he still played an integral role. And then against the Predators, he was awesome. He was like revenge against his former team. Who said it better, right? And then against the Oilers, he was everywhere. He had 1 goal, he had 2 assists. So he's been such a big piece for this team. I mean, guys, how big of an addition was getting Duchesne this season? Adam, I'll start with you.
Breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
I mean, Duchesne added something to the second line. That Marchment, Sagan, Duchesne line, when they're all healthy, I will go out on a hot take and say they might be the best line on the Dallas Stars.
Wow.
That line right there, the way they play, they have great chemistry, and I think they outdo the first line in some respects. Overall, the lines this year are great in general, but Duchesne, breath of fresh air, and he feels like the missing piece, if that makes sense.
Mason?
Well, I think Duchesne's been a great guy. I mean, he has 22 goals and 55 points in 54 games played this season. I think he's one of those guys, whenever you look for a veteran presence, he's going to be one of those guys you want to bring in. And I mean, since the All-Star break, he's had 5 goals, 5 assists, and 10 points on 13 shots. So he's been a key piece of this offense that has helped both elevate the offense and bring pressure, a little bit of pressure off of some of those guys that normally would have to step up. So I think he's been a great addition.
Yeah, and Ottinger's also been awesome. Otter has been amazing down the stretch. Even today, he was great, just putting up ridiculous numbers. And I got to say, guys, I think he's the MVP of the team at this current moment. Duchesne definitely has a case to be that, but Ottinger has just been incredible since coming back from injury. So, guys, how big of a piece, Mason, I'll start with you, has Ottinger been, and tell me why?
Well, I mean, Ottinger's been great for this team so far. I mean, since the All-Star break, he's had 148 shots against him on 137 saves. He's only allowed 11 goals, which is about a little over 2 per game. But, I mean, he's been the backbone of this defense. Now, one thing I will say about Ottinger that I would like him to see improve is his positioning at times may not be as well as some would say it could be. And then his glove high side and seeing blockers has also been a little bit of a struggle. But honestly, I think if you work on those 2 things and look at the season he's had so far, I think he's been a great addition for this team and a great backbone for this defense.
Yeah. And Ottinger, I actually kind of agree with the positioning. He got ripped hard on that Marchand wrister in round 3. And I think that's why that game was so heartbreaking too. Just minor off topic, you know, we dominated that whole Boston game and we still lost in 9 rounds of a shootout. But what Ottinger has done for this team, he's kind of just won in a long line of really good goaltenders the Stars have had for some reason, which we are really good at getting those. And it's the same guy from 2021 that almost carried us past the Flames into the second round, but now he has an offense in front of him.
Yeah.
Defense is a little less, but the offense is there and there's not as much pressure on him. So he might not be as statistically good, but he's still the same guy.
Yeah.
Just not pressure.
Definitely. Guys, as we're looking at right now, the Oilers beat us, unfortunately, on Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, really. And even though Duchesne was everywhere and it was neck and neck all game long, the Stars just could not pull it out. What was the biggest factor that we are taking away from that loss, Adam?
For one, wild second period, and also a really, really sad way to end work. But in all seriousness, my takeaway was we lost a game that was winnable. We got that penalty that some people called weak, but is still a penalty, and we immediately folded.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not good to me because to me that shows a team that might fold under pressure if something goes wrong. Like in the playoffs, let's say Game 7 they call a penalty on us. Are we going to fold like that? I hope not.
Yeah. Mason?
Well, I think kind of like what he said, that wild second period where both teams put up 3 goals, I think that was one of those where it's like you kind of wish you maybe had a little bit more spread out of an offense instead of everything happening at once. But I think one of the 2 main reasons why the Stars lost that game was they allowed that critical shorthand goal to the Oilers that helped kind of put them back in that game. And then that OT power play, that's a killer. I mean, your defense had been great on power plays that entire game, and then going into the last period and then OT, you give up that last second power play goal. That's just a heartbreaker. Absolutely. Well, let's get some good news in here. The Stars absolutely destroyed the Predators. Like I said, Duchesne revenge game. It was pretty cool to watch. 9-2. Duchesne had a huge game, 2 goals, but Wyatt Johnston was the real factor there. He had 2 goals and 4 points total with 2 assists. Has the Stars youth movement, in your guys' opinion, been the biggest thing for their success?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes. This is the opinion I've had of the Stars all year. They're young guys. It is special because I remember the Stars back when we had Ben, Sagan, and Radulov playing overtime. And they were the only, it felt like it was a one-line team. That's not the case anymore. Robertson, Hintz, still young, and those are your first liners. You got Wyatt Johnston with Ben, which I think is going to be really good for Johnston. He's going to learn a lot. And it's really important to have a game like this for the young guys because it shows management and coaching that you don't have to rely on the old dogs all the time. You don't have to rely on your veterans. You can trust your young guys to maybe pull something together.
Yeah.
And if we're being honest, young guys in that depth, that wins you a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Mason?
Well, kind of like what Adam said, having that young player step up is going to be huge. And I mean, another thing is you have the older guys like Pavelski and Sagan that are kind of getting a little bit older and maybe not can play as long. So having those guys that have those shorter leashes being able to prove themselves, saying, hey, let me go out there, give me more minutes, I can make a play, it helps your team overall and it helps keep your team fresh because older guys are going to have a little bit less energy than the younger guys. So being able to have the younger guys come in, step up, and play in those crucial roles, I think that's going to be great for this team.
Yeah, the Predators had our number, guys, let's be honest. I mean, they beat us in the first two matchups pretty handily.
Yeah.
What did we do differently this time to get the win? I mean, 9-2, like it's not just a win, it's like a blowout win, right? What did we do differently?
I don't even know if it was something that we did or if it was Predators' just lack of attention to detail. The defense, oh my gosh, their defense was abysmal. 3 goals in the first, I think it was 8 or 9 minutes. I mean, that game wasn't a game within the first 10 minutes. Like you could just tell. It was like, okay, yeah, this ain't a game. And the defense was bad. Shen looked exposed multiple times. I don't really think it was something we did because, yes, we applied the pressure. I think it was just them. Predators just didn't have it on Thursday, and we took advantage, and we applied tons of pressure in that first period. And once Saros got pulled, it was like, okay, this game's over.
Right. Mason?
I think for me, looking back at that game, that first period going up 4-0 quick, and I mean, yes, you could say, oh, it was just a dominating offensive show, but a lot of it was a lot of different bounces and ricochets. I mean, you would see a guy shoot from the blue line, it would bounce off, and there would be somebody right there close to the net being able to put it back in. I mean, and this is something that the Stars do consistently, is being able to put up shots, get rebounds, and put them back into the goal. And I think that helped. But yeah, just an uncharacteristic game from Saros, who gave up those 4 goals. And just honestly, just an unlucky night for the Predators. You had a lot of things that didn't really go your way. And I think maybe if you change a couple things, maybe it's a little bit of a closer game. But just, yeah, it was just not a very good night for the Predators.
Yeah, and very quickly, guys, the Stars are going to turn around in Boston tonight, or tomorrow night, I should say, and play the Rangers. What do we think going into that matchup that the Stars are going to have to do to take the point lead over the Bruins potentially? Adam, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to look at the next 6 games in general, but tomorrow they're going to have to come in and have pressure.
Yeah.
And essentially, I'm going to say play the same way you did today, but maybe win in regulation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to put it because, again, I think they played the better game today, but regulation, they fell apart. And Mason.
Well, I think just one of these things that looking at the team, I mean, looking at the season overall, it's been one of those teams where it's like you win 3 games, you lose 2 games. You win 2 games, you lose a game. It's going to be, there needs to be more consistency for the Stars to be a top team, which I think they have the caliber. But overall, I think it's just something that they need to look at.
Definitely, Mason. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the best team in town, the UNT women's basketball team. So don't go anywhere.
Willis Library, located at the University of North Texas. It has computers, printers, and the building is open 24/7. By going online, you can book up to an hour of reserved space and one of the many private study rooms. Many of them are equipped with whiteboards, a table, and a TV to hook up to your computer. Textbooks can be checked out for free with a student ID. They also have many of these in ebook forms. This is still a library, so always remember to be quiet and respectful of other surroundings, especially in certain places where talking is not allowed. For example, the 3rd and 4th floor are completely quiet. As you can see, Willis Library has many options for students, with it offering many media sources and staying open all the time.
I'm so tired. I feel ugly. I'm not okay. I didn't know UNT had counseling services. Maybe I should check it out. This looks like the place.
Welcome back to SportsZone, everyone. I'm your host, Drew Maurer, joined by Nicholas Volpetti and Hunter Paris. Hunter, before we get into this, I got to point out talk about the dress up here.
I'm starting something new, all right? It's navy and green. This outfit might be worse than the UNT women's basketball team played yesterday, but it's all right. We'll be okay.
Well, there's a vision, and I don't see it, but that's okay. So we'll just go ahead and get into the vision of Coach Jason Burton, which we didn't see yesterday either. So I have no idea what to say there, but new coach, no problem. I mean, despite the loss, it has been a historic season for Coach Jason Burton and crew. I mean, through 24 games, 25 games now, this is the best start to a season in women's basketball history. Not to mention that Coach Burton is now 19-5 at UNT, and that extends his record to 190-95. I mean, that's incredible. And he's closing in on the most wins in UNT women's basketball program history with 21. And then on top of that, he's nearing the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1986. And that was the only time that the women's team has ever made it. So guys, let's just talk, before we get into the bad news, let's talk about the good news. What has been so great for this program to turn it around? Hunter, I'll start with you.
Man, he's changed the culture. I think this is a team last year that, there was some toxicity with, not necessarily the head coach, but there was just some bad energy on the team. That's been completely taken out with the coaching change. He's changed the culture, brought 2 of his own players in from Texas A&M Commerce that have completely changed the team around. And he's just been unreal this year, and it started with him changing that culture.
Nick?
Yeah, I totally agree with you that the fact that they've been able to bring over Desiree Colonel and Deani Robinson from A&M Commerce has been huge. I mean, they've been like 2 of the 3 best players on the team. And like you said, I mean, he brought over a winning culture. He was the winningest coach in history at A&M Commerce. So I think that bringing over that winning culture and sort of getting a winning mentality into the team has helped a lot.
Yeah, certainly a winning mentality. You can see it. And you guys mentioned it. Desiree Colonel has been awesome. She comes off the bench on occasion, but she started yesterday. She's always popping. Colonel is always I gotta throw it in there. I'm sorry, guys. But her energy is such a big factor. And like you said, Hunter, it's a culture change, but her energy is just always that you can always tell that she's fighting for boards. She shoots really well. She shot well yesterday despite the loss. So I'm going to start with you, Hunter. What is she the key addition for this Mean Green team, you think?
Yeah, 100%. She's averaging 15 and 7 right now. So is Tamisha Lampkin, who I want to talk about a little bit more later. But she's been absolutely unreal. You can just tell she just brings so much energy. She talked at the men's game to get everybody to come out to their game yesterday. She talked at the men's game on Wednesday, and she had the mic and just got the crowd all juiced up, just going crazy. So you can just tell she brings a certain amount of energy, and it's helped him out on the floor, obviously, first in the conference still, even after the loss yesterday.
Nicholas?
I totally agree. I mean, I think that Desiree is one of the most energetic players on the team. She's a great three-point shooter too. She makes 35% of her threes, and she doesn't shoot them often. But when the team needs a spark, when they're not going well, I think that knocking down a big three can sort of get the crowd into it, get the bench into it, and I think that's really helped the team this year for her ability to make threes, even when she doesn't shoot them a lot. When she does shoot them, she picks the right time, and it helps the team get energized.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Colonel, she shined bright in the loss. Like I said, she had 16 points, 12 boards. But now for the bad news. UNT lost yesterday to UTSA, 63-66, a game that we really should have won, but we lost to UTSA a couple games ago too. So did they just have our number, Nicholas? What's going on there?
I remember in that first game against UTSA, they shot the ball really poorly. They shot like 29%. And then this game yesterday really wasn't that much better. I mean, I think they were like 35, 36%, just not good enough. And another big reason why they lost is at the start of the fourth quarter, I think in the first minute of the fourth quarter, Lampkin and Colonel both took their fourth foul, so they had to sit out for a while. I think they were out till about the 4-minute mark of that quarter. And so they had to play without their 2 best players for most of that fourth quarter. And I think that really helped UTSA get back into the game after having a 6-point deficit to start the quarter. And I think that's sort of maybe the main reason why the UTSA was able to take that one.
Yeah, Hunter?
Yeah, like you mentioned, Nicholas, 22 from 60 from the field yesterday. The only time that they've shot worse than that was the first UTSA game. So it's one of those things, they got to figure out how to beat UTSA, especially if they meet them in the conference championship. But this is a team that has kind of played poorly these last fourth quarters of these games. They got to figure that out before they hit Fort Worth and Dickies Arena here in a couple weeks. They're a great offensive team, but when UTSA does stuff that limits them to shoot well from the three-point line, and when they don't have good offensive games, it's usually not pretty. And you lost by 3 yesterday, but you shouldn't lose to a UTSA team like that.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned Dickies Arena, Hunter. What do you think this team is going to show in the American Athletic Tournament? I mean, does this win Does this loss, does this really show what we're going to do in the tournament? Do you think we're going to kind of heat up during the tournament? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they play great at home. We're 10-1 at home this year in the Super Pit. Obviously, the one loss coming yesterday. But, big-time players, and I mentioned this on the Super Bowl show last week, big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. Desiree Colonel's a big-time player. Tamisha Lampkin's a big-time player. Deani Robinson's a big-time player. They're going to show up in the tournament. Coach Burton's going to be ready to go. And I think they're going to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1986.
Wow. Nicholas? You agree?
I gotta agree with you. That's a bold take,
it.
but I gotta agree, man. I think this team is just stacked. They got those three players, Colonel, Robinson, and Lampkin, but I think even deeper than that, they've got some players off the bench who can make an impact. In that first half against UTSA, I think Desiree Wooten was one of UNT's best players, and then in the game before that, she had a good first half too. So I think that she can kind of provide a spark too. So it's not just like that you have three big players, and that helps, but obviously. That obviously helps, but I think that having a deeper roster, which is what UNT has, will help them in the tournament also.
Definitely. And what do we need to do in the last 5 games? Talk about now, right? What do we need to do in the last 5 games to secure that number 1 seed in the tournament? And really, what do we need to do to prove that we're going to win the tournament, Nicholas?
I think that they need to just stick to their game plan. I think that lately, maybe not in that UTSA game. I think it was a bit of a struggle in that game, but they've had some games where they were really focusing on getting inside and getting Lampkin those easy baskets. She leads, or I think she's 4th in the country in field goal percentage. So if you can keep feeding her inside in that paint and getting those easy buckets, then I think it'll really help. Because the easier the shot, the more points you're going to put up, obviously. And I think that they do a good job of getting to the line, but you got to make those free throws. They made 16 of 26 in that game against UTSA, and if you could add 3 or 4 more points, you would have had a win there. So I think that they just need to be a little more like prolific at the free throw line.
Yeah, more consistent at the line, and also more consistent in the fourth quarter. They've let kind of some teams off the hook late in these games that they've played decently well in. You got to figure out a way to finish games, and to finish, you want to get that number 1 seed for the tournament, because if you do, the way that you go about the tournament is completely different, whether you're a 3rd or 4th seed compared to a 1 seed. So I got to figure it out. Yesterday, they couldn't stop Jordan Jenkins from UTSA, 29 points off the bench. So they just got to figure it out in the 4th period of these games and get it back going again. Got a big one here in a couple days on Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, we're neck and neck with Temple in the conference, kind of 8-4 for them, 9-5 for us. Are they our biggest competition in the AAC? What do we think? No, yes. I mean, there's not a whole lot of other teams that are kind of contending for that. UTSA obviously has their number, but I don't think that they're atop the conference. Nicholas, what do you think?
I think Temple's a great team, and I think another team that may be able to, pull off a little bit of an upset against UNT is UAB. They can score. I think they have about 72 points per game, and UNT is a team that can score. So I think that you need to be able to score in order to beat the Mean Green. And while the first game against UAB was a good one for the Mean Green, I think if they can capitalize like they did in that game and take down the UAB, then I think that they'll be able to win the tournament and go to the NCAA tournament for the 2nd time in their history.
Yeah, I'm big on UAB, the Blazers. They have Diamond DeShields. She's an absolute beast. The brother of Delino DeShields, who used to play on the Texas Rangers, actually. I saw her in the Conference USA tournament last year over in Frisco, and I was like, man, she can really play. She's had a great year this year. A lot of great players over there. They're 3rd in the conference right now, next to Temple at 2nd, but it's going to be an absolute battle Saturday, 3 p.m. in Birmingham. Going to show you a lot about what these two teams are, and I'm excited for that matchup, and hopefully the Mean Green can go in there and get a win.
Yeah, and if they do, I mean, their chances of going to Connecticut to take on Paige Beckers and crew is even bigger. But one last question for you guys. The Mean Green are great at home, 10-0 until yesterday at home, until UTSA came to town. But what is so great about the Pit? I mean, is it the energy? We are 7-5 on the road. And 10-1 at home, 10-0 until yesterday, like I said. So what is so important about the energy in the Pit that really gets this team going? What do you think, Nicholas?
I think that it's just kind of a comfort thing. I think that, they've also gotten some more fans this year as they've started to win more. They're 19-6 now. Obviously, that'll get more fans in the building, get more talk, get more energy around the team. And I think that they've just, as a result of having more fans and having more people in that building, it's helped them feel a little more comfortable at home and make it feel like sort of a fortress that they can defend. And up until yesterday, they were undefeated. So I just think that's sort of a testament to how much of a fortress it's been for the Mean Green this year.
I got to say it's the Mean Green Maniacs. I want to give a big shout out to the UNT marketing staff in the Athletic Center, doing a great job of promoting the game, promoting people to come to the games. The Mean Green Maniacs, they just set the student attendance record a couple weeks ago for the men's game against SMU. Kylan McBain, Shannon Hallbritter, all those people do a great job, and they've gotten a lot of students out to games this year, and it's been a lot of fun watching them, and it's created kind of a great home atmosphere.
Yeah, great season so far for the Mean Green, and hopefully they keep it going. But that is all we have here today on SportsZone. Make sure to follow us at NTTV_sports on all social medias, just X and Instagram actually. And don't forget to watch the nightly news tonight and watch us on Thursday as Trey Francis hosts SportsZone. Have a good night, everyone.
The drug is 50% stronger than heroin and